Welcome to the New Jersey Morning Show. I'm Dina Deleasa-Gonsar in for Kara.
And I'm Mike Favetta. Great to have you with us this morning, Dina. We've got a lot of stories to get to on this morning. First up, I want to talk about Governor Phil Murphy, First Lady Tammy Murphy, and a New Jersey delegation wrapped up Choose New Jersey's economic mission in Montreal. Governor Murphy announced a partnership between CGI Canada and Rowan University, uniting their expertise to advance emerging industries, particularly in information technology and generative artificial intelligence. Some pretty impressive stuff there.
Seems like it. Governor Murphy also gave the keynote address at the Canada FinTech Forum, an initiative of Finance Montreal. He highlighted how New Jersey and Quebec, as global leaders in finance and innovation, can shape the future of Canada's alliance with America.
Yeah, you think international borders, but they're literally on our doorstep, so close.
Yeah, right
kind of a
there.
stone's throw from New Jersey. Yep. Next up is a very sad story. Fairfield police officer James Champy passed away after a battle with cancer. Officer Champy began his career with the Fairfield Police Department as a Class 2 special officer in October of 2016. He was appointed as a full-time officer only a year later. In 2022, he was assigned to the Essex County Auto Theft Task Force. He was a physical fitness instructor, was an integral part of running the department's Junior Police Academy, and was a part of the department's Special Olympics snowball flag football team.
In April 2020, he was one of the 3 Fairfield police officers who helped to neutralize a suspect who had pointed a loaded handgun at officers after having been involved in a pursuit. For those actions, he received a Gallantry Star from the Fairfield Police Department and Valor Awards from the 200 Club of Essex County, the New Jersey State PPA, and the New Jersey State Association of Chiefs of Police. This is definitely one of those really heartbreaking ones.
Yeah, young too.
Yes.
This is a story people have been talking about all week long. 4 kids under 15 years old are in custody after an online threat was made to several South Jersey schools. According to Woodbury Police Department, the juvenile who made the original threat on Sunday evening is a student from Woodbury. Police say the threat may have been a cry for help from the 12-year-old. 3 other students from Washington Township, Harrison, and Glassboro allegedly made the similar threats.
With school coming back in full swing, things can get a little stressful. Joining us now is Dr. Tara Shalakani, CEO of Preferred Behavioral Health Group and co-host of the Well Off podcast, to give us all the best tips to keep our kids and ourselves anxiety-free. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me back.
So with all of the recent school shootings in Georgia and the threats that were just made in South Jersey schools, and we're all coming back for the beginning, it's definitely adding to what is normally just a little bit of a stressful and chaotic times. So how do we talk to our kids about these events, especially when they're the ones who are entering the school buildings every single morning?
Yes, Dina. Our school year in New Jersey has certainly gone off to a very unusual start with shootings in Georgia, threats of shootings in Ohio, and now in our own home state. Several schools were closed last week in South Jersey. And as a provider to over 30 school districts, we here at Preferred Behavioral Health Group have been privy to so many disturbing stories about threats and really heightened anxieties in both parents and children.
So that brings up a point about now that school is back in session, Dr. Chalakani. You have kids and parents may have a hard time adjusting to what's been going on. What are some tips to make this transition easier?
Well, I know it sounds counterintuitive as we are here on the New Jersey Morning Show, but really limiting exposure to the news is essential. And I know that children hear things at school, and that's really unavoidable, but preventing them from these horrific news stories is really key, and really being age appropriate. If a small child is asking questions, we want to give just one sentence answers. But the real key here is that first you want to ask your child how they're feeling and what their thoughts are about it. Because what I find is that parents tend to overthink or have a tendency to want to over-explain, which gives children sometimes more information than they need or even want. So I would just start with asking, what do you know? What are you thinking about this? How are you feeling? And use that as your compass to guide you through the conversation with your children. It's really important to listen, to validate, not to minimize their fears or their stress, and really do your work as a parent. Call the school, find out what their safety plan is so you can provide your children with facts to help them feel more secure during the school day.
That's really helpful. I really love the idea of validating their concerns, not minimizing them, and asking them first what information they know and using that as a guide rather than just downloading them with everything that's going on. I think it's part of our responsibility as a parent, me being a parent myself, is to try to be that boundary and that barometer for
Sure. And,
them.
some, and sometimes we assume we know how they're feeling or what they're thinking when
Yeah.
we really don't. And the sad thing is that these mass school shootings have increased over 8% since 2020, and every hour in the United, or every day rather, 12 children die by gun violence, and those statistics are staggering. But in the grand scheme of things, it is rare. So we want to stress that too. And we want to provide our children with facts, whether that this happened very far away or, it was someone that was really struggling and we don't know anybody like that personally. Whatever they feel is a fact-based explanation that would give them a little bit more comfort.
I agree. And Dr. Chalikani, I know that parents are concerned speaking to their kids, and we've talked a little bit about that, but are there any other concerns beyond that parents have been bringing to you during this time of year? And, how do you recommend addressing those?
Sure. Well, the beginning of the school year tends to be a little anxious regardless because we're shifting schedules, we have new teachers, new classes, sometimes new schools, and it's stressful for parents too with new routines. They might have children now in different schools. So there's a whole variety of reasons why parents and children will feel stressed. But this really compounds it because it's just something really additional because now our basic need for safety is being infringed upon when we're worried about a threat being made to our school. But again, it's listening, validating, and really paying attention. Is your child not acting like themselves? Are they not being as social? Or do they not seem as happy? And really, it's important to get help when they need it. I always say if your child wakes up with a tummy ache, you're going to ask questions, maybe keep them home, maybe bring them to the pediatrician. So if they're not feeling well mentally or emotionally, we have to give them the same type of care.
Sure, like you mentioned, starting a new school year can be exciting for some, but others have a little more difficulty coping. What should advice or what do you give to a parent who, has a child that is really having an extremely difficult time and just refuses to adapt to the new routine?
Well, I mean, patience is a virtue, right? So we have to give children the time and space to adjust and adapt. And again, just like with talking about these difficult topics, ask them what they need. What would help them to feel better, or and if it's within reason, of course, adjustments should be made. But I think very often we don't give children credit for knowing themselves, and we need to first ask them, what they feel would help them, because again, I think that takes a lot of the guesswork out of parenting, and parents, are thinking with an adult brain, and we tend to assume or overthink things. So asking our child what they might need, it could be something very simple that can be implemented to reduce everyone's stress level.
Yes. And once we identify that our child has a need such as that, is there a way parents can help children unwind during these stressful times, whether it's after school or before school, maybe some like hands-on tactile ways to help them work through it?
Sure. Routines are very important. Structure really helps children have a sense of security, knowing what's next. And downtime is really important. I think, we're all bound to schedules and it can feel like a race, like, okay, come on, hurry up. You have to do your homework because now we have to go to practice. And I think it's important to take a breath, take some time, pay attention to maybe what can be removed from a schedule to give kids a little breathing time. They need time to unwind. I mean, outside play is down 40% than the previous generation, but it's important for them to come home, maybe get some fresh air, move their bodies before they get right back to homework and activities and, being on a frenetic clock, which little guys don't need to be.
Yeah, kids need to be kids. Dr.
They
Chalicani,
do.
where can folks learn more about you and your practice?
Well, our website is preferredbehavioral.org, and it's a robust hub for all things mental health, blogs, services, and we're here to help the state of New Jersey.
Dr. Tara Chalicani, CEO of Preferred Behavioral Health Group, thank you so much for joining us. Always great to have you back on the show.
My pleasure.
I love hearing the information and perspective of school psychologists, behavioral health professionals. Fun fact, I was a school counselor for a number of years.
Really? Yeah, but I can only imagine how much more difficult, jobs like that are getting given all of these, triggers and stressors in the environment today.
100%. Year by year, just school districts as a whole up against something new and something different. So I give them a lot of credit for sure. But now from the hallways, we're going to maybe the runways. Up next, a heads up from an amazing designer on what hats to wear for fall events. Casino workers aiming to end an exemption in New Jersey's indoor smoking ban have asked the state's Supreme Court to hear their case. The request was filed by the United Automobile Workers Region 9, which represents casino dealers, slot machine attendants, and other casino floor employees.
Yeah, so last week, a Superior Court judge ruled that the 2006 New Jersey Smoke-Free Air Act permits smoking in casinos and their simulcasting facilities. The UAW, along with co-plaintiff casino employees against smoking effects, argued that secondhand smoke poses serious health risks to casino workers, violating their constitutional protections. I gotta say, when you go to a casino outside of New Jersey and there's no smoke, it's kind of like a breath of fresh air because it's like, wow, you can enjoy the floor of a casino and not leave smelling like an ashtray. So I guess it's something to see that, yeah, times are changing and maybe the health effects and some of these other reasons will start to fall in line with what actually happens.
For sure. And it's true. The people who have to work there and are making their living there don't really deserve to be sucking in all that smoke and such. So we'll see. So now, with the arrival of the fall season, we'll soon be attending events that will have most of us frantically looking for the perfect thing to wear, as I was this morning. But what few women realize is the crowning touch to a truly dazzling look is the perfect hat. If you plan on attending the equestrian events coming up, like the Princeton Young Jumper Championships, our next guest can give us the heads up on the finest hats. We're joined by designer Dina, who creates some of the most dazzling headwear today. Vitalina, welcome.
Oh, my pleasure.
And I see you have a beautiful hat on this morning yourself.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
So I need to know, why are the hats the must-have item for this season?
Yes, recently hats have been gaining traction on women's wardrobes. If you look at icon, like major style icons of our times, women like Kate Middleton, Beyonce, or Blake Lively, Amal Clooney, they are all often photographed wearing elegant hats at different occasions. So while hats are perfect for the entire year, fall is the perfect season because of the cooler weather allows us to pair them with, let's say, dressier styles. Yeah.
Wow, Vitalina, like Dina mentioned, you have some beautiful hats behind you. So
Oh,
how can women choose the hat that works for them and their lifestyles?
yes, when I designed my first collection, I was very conscious on how uh, I was conscious of making them relevant to how modern women dress. So my hats are more classic and timeless, so you can pair them during the day, you can wear at night or weekends, even for parties or special events. To find the right one for you, I would say a good rule of thumb is to make sure the color blends well with your outfit. It doesn't really have to match exactly the same like I'm doing now, as you can see it, but as a hat can serve as an accent piece, but you don't want it to clash either.
Yes, and I see that you have some very interesting hat designs. You mentioned that you're more classic and timeless, but as I'm looking at some of the hats behind you, some of them are really interesting, really different. So what makes your hats special?
Yes, I always try to. They are classic, have like a classic foundation, but I always try to have something modern, like a modern in attitude. I always try to put some detail that is more to our time, even though I like vintage, I like, so I try to mix a little bit. But my hats, like I put my heart on everything I do, and they are all handcraft with sustainable materials, and I try to look for sources that are cruelty free.
That's
That
wonderful.
sounds incredible. So tell us, what is next for you? What are your plans for the future?
I'm really gradually growing my brand, and I have been exploring essential items of women's wardrobes, items that complete each other. So recently, I have been working on a dress collection, and hopefully soon I will expand to footwear. But at the same time, I want to keep these as exclusive collections, limited editions, not a mass manufacture, because I want our customers to feel special and I want them to feel really confident every time they wear our pieces.
Well, I'm
Wow.
really
And Vitalina, where
excited.
can,
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm
and
excited.
on that note, where can folks find your products?
The website is www.vitalinaginzali.com, and also on Instagram you can find me. It's Vitalina Ginzali.
I feel like I definitely need one of the ones with the ribbon down the back. Those are,
Oh,
I've got my eye on those. Vitalina, thank
thank
you
you.
so much for joining
Thank
us
you.
this morning. We'll be looking out for your new collections for sure.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
What a pretty collection of hats.
I know. I mean, all the colors and the textiles that she uses, and the different pictures we saw while during the interview. Some of them were really interesting, really different.
Yeah, we love supporting our local entrepreneurs like
For
that.
sure.
So up next, we learn about a new New Jersey-based documentary, Roosevelt, A Tapestry of the Jewish American Dream. We'll be right back.
The Jewish Heritage Museum of Monmouth County and Gelman Images will be premiering the documentary Life in Roosevelt, a tapestry of the Jewish American dream. Here to tell us all about the film is creator and filmmaker Gary Gelman. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be on.
Gary, great for you to join us. Tell us about this film and what is it about and why is it so important?
Well, Roosevelt is a small community in Monmouth County that was settled in the early 30s after the Depression to bring Jewish immigrants from the cities, including Newark and the Bronx, New York, out to the rural area of Monmouth County, the countryside. And essentially, the Roosevelt administration thought, and along with others involved, that in the early 30s they would develop this community of 200 homes, and they would be made populated mostly by Jewish immigrants, and they were going to be in the farming and industrial trades, which was interesting because that really wasn't something they came to America to do when they landed in the cities. So essentially, they created this community of 200 homes made out of cement parcels that were made here, and families lived here in what would be almost called a Jewish community, although no one was segregated out, but mostly Jewish people lived here at the time. That was the purpose of it, and that's actually when it was founded, it was called the Jersey Homesteads, and it was the only Jewish homestead that was created, although there were many throughout the nation that were created.
And what made Roosevelt a special place for its early residents? What do you think drew them to that particular place?
Mean, you bring a bunch of families who came here because someone knew someone, so they already had a connection before they arrived. They came into a community of farmland, so it wasn't the city that they came from. And they were more or less secluded in their own little area. They had a post office, they had a grocery store, they had their food in the agricultural, they had small towns surrounding them, but there weren't a lot of other Jewish families that lived in this general area. So they more or less grew up together. They had their own K through 8 school at the time. So the community was really built upon the growth of those residents who were here, and very few came in and left during that time. So the memories that we found in the documentary were that people gathered here and really grew up together. They raised their families here. They were able to go in and out of each other's homes, not as strangers, but as family and friends. And in the documentary, we talked to 5 individuals who really talk about the history. And one of the individuals starts crying because of the influence that the community had on him, the closeness that he was with not only his relatives in the area, but also the people that were here, that congregated in Roosevelt, this Jewish community that they created.
Wow, and Gary, in this, you see a lot of very rare and unique footage, especially of Albert Einstein, of Eleanor Roosevelt. You see that here. How did you access such precious footage?
Well, what's interesting is we almost got done with the production, and one of our participants said, I have a videotape that was given to me like in the early 80s. Maybe you want to take a look at that. And lo and behold, we found footage that even the Roosevelt Museum doesn't have. And in essence, we have Eleanor Roosevelt at the day they, wasn't when they renamed it, but when they dedicated a sculpture where she came to Roosevelt with Anne Bancroft, a big talent at the time, movie star. And they came and had a big celebration. Albert Einstein, being of Jewish descent, was a strong supporter of Roosevelt, and the footage that we have that your viewers just saw was him walking around with the Jewish residents. So to have that footage was unbelievable. And actually, the Roosevelt Museum itself didn't even have access to that footage. So we're going to supply that to them as a part of the Jewish Heritage Museum of Monmouth County. And it's a great find for us to have, and it will be kept in their archives, not only in Monmouth County, but at the Roosevelt Museum. The archivist is definitely going to include it. So, and we have not only visuals of Eleanor Roosevelt, but we have her speaking to the crowds. And actually, some participants in our show, in the documentary, actually were there and saw that and actually recognized people in the background who were young kids at the time. All of our participants are in their 70s or 80s. So they really gave us a behind the scenes look of what it was like starting in the early 30s and up until current day.
Yeah, I mean, there is no doubt that there is a lot of historical documentation in this film that is super interesting. But what are you hoping that the audience specifically takes away from seeing this documentary?
The one thing I learned in high school, and we always learn in historical productions, is history always repeats itself. So there's a tad of anti-Semitism that went on during this time, immigration issues, farming. So there are a lot of different things that we learn about in this documentary that has come true today. The issues we have today happened 100 years ago. So our hope here is to document this history with individuals who lived during that time. And ironically and coincidentally, Roosevelt is still the same community it was. Now its population has mixed up, and they still have the small school, but essentially those 200 homes minus one, I believe, are still there. No one is allowed to tear any of the homes down. They need to work with what is there. They wanted to really keep the historical nature of the community. And those who grew up there and live there currently find it's still a small community surrounded by farms. The closest town is 10 to 15 minutes away. So my hope is that we remember this history so that we remember that immigration was always an issue, anti-Semitism was an issue, and that you never know when it will come back again.
Gary, where can we see the film and learn more info?
The film is going to be at the Jewish Heritage Museum on October 20th at 4 o'clock. You can go to the website. You just do a search on Jewish Heritage Museum of Monmouth County, and you can see all the information and details there. We did a pre-screening preview. We had over 80 people there who were involved with the production, and it was a wonderful event, and we're expecting it to be sold out, and maybe we'd have to add another showing a second time during that day. So be sure to check out the website.
All right, Gary Gelman, the film is Life in Roosevelt, a tapestry of the Jewish American dream. Thank you so much for joining us today on the New Jersey Morning Show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
There's some awesome stuff in that film if you're looking at the
footage. It really is.
Wow.
I know, to see and you know, to have one of the interviewees say, "Hey, I think I have this videotape," and to add that into the film is really something incredible.
Yeah, like Albert Einstein, and I mean, you never know, like what was right in your own backyard there.
That's true.
Well, from Albert Einstein, we're moving on to somebody else who's just as legendary. Up next, where you can catch a one-woman show about the legendary Bette Davis. Actress Jessica Scher is currently reprising her role as the legendary Bette Davis in the acclaimed one-woman show, Bette Davis Ain't for Sissies. She will be performing in New Jersey at the very special Bell Theater at Bellworks, a brand new theater in Holmdel. Take a look.
Did anyone read the newspaper? The LA Times leaked all the winners. How thoughtful of them!
Oh, well, my name is Jessica Scher. I'm the actress and the playwright of the acclaimed solo show Bette Davis Ain't for Sissies. It's about young Bette Davis in the 1930s and her fight in Hollywood, all the way through the later years of her life, and seeing this person who's this tenacious star fighting her way through the studio system.
Jessica, this looks fabulous. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Yes, thanks for having me.
So how did you get started?
Well, this has been an ongoing success. I was told way back in 2008, I looked a little bit like Bette Davis, and I actually was on the streets of New York City, and people said, you know what, you look like Bette Davis, you got her eyes. And I finally Googled her, and I was like, I guess I look like young Bette. And I was in a class, and in this class, I had to do a famous person, and I got really excited about Bette Davis, and I decided, you know what, for class, let's do this character. And it turned into this over 400 shows I've performed at this point of this 20-year overnight success.
Wow, that's incredible.
That's a big number.
So you mentioned, the physical appearance, but why Bette Davis? And you do the show like this?
Yeah, she's just such a firecracker. And when I started to learn about Bette and her fight in Hollywood, young Bette really was interesting. There's old Bette Davis, but then there's young Bette Davis who's fighting Hollywood. I got excited as not only the actress, but as the playwright in me, I was curious to know what is it about Bette that makes her special. And I found that she's one of the first women of her time to fight in Hollywood, to truly start doing what, actors are trying to change now. She did it almost 100 years ago.
So Betty is this pioneer in terms of pushing for better in Hollywood, is what I'm hearing you say here. And so what do you want audiences to leave the theater feeling? You mentioned she's a firecracker. She's got this great spirit. Is that what you're hoping people turn around and leave the theater with when they think of her moving forward?
Absolutely. I think the part of Betty that's so exciting for audiences is that she's unlike anybody else. She has this spirit. She has this firecrackerness to her. And as the audience, you get to watch how she stands up and fights for herself in Hollywood, how she's the first person of her time to say, it's not fair. What you guys do to us in the studio system is not right. And she really doesn't back down. I love that Betty does not back down. I find that, audiences leave the audience, they leave the theater feeling that they've gone on a journey, and also that they too can stand up in their own life and fight for what they believe in.
Wow. Now, Jessica, we are told that you were given a few of Miss Davis's personal items, like a scarf and gloves. Tell us about that.
Yes. So what happened was I was given a pair of Betty's scarf and gloves to wear in the show. I know. And it's amazing because there's a piece of Betty, I feel like in every show, there's a little bit of Betty that comes onto the show and on stage with me. But what happened was I was going to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival in Scotland, and I had sent my script to the Betty Davis estate to see if I could use her name. And I got a call on a Sunday, and there was a woman named Catherine Cermak. And she said, I was Betty Davis's assistant for 10 years. I read your play. You're so passionate. Is there anything I can do to help you? And I was like, well, where do you live? And she said, well, I live in Los Angeles. You're welcome to come and, visit me. I'm happy to talk about Betty Davis, my experience with her, and your script. So I flew out to Los Angeles, and it was just a magical moment of meeting Catherine Cermak, who was Betty's assistant for 10 years. And she gave me insight of Betty Davis. And the way in which she described Betty was that she loved to give gifts. And Betty would think of something special for somebody. And at the end of our meeting, she gave me a little box with a gold bow, and in it was a pair of Betty's scarf, the gloves, handkerchief, and earrings to wear. And she said, you know what, Betty would have wanted you to have these to wear in the show. And it's, as the artist in me, it's that point where you never give up. These are the moments where you think to yourself, okay, this is truly divine. Betty too is putting her stamp of approval of never give up. And when I put them on stage, I always feel like I'm growing into Betty. There's a part of me that as Jessica, I get to be confident. I get to be a trailblazer. And it's in the name and the spirit of Betty Davis.
That is an absolutely amazing story. Like, what confirmation as to move forward in what you're doing with her blessing, so to speak. And I've got to know, who came up with the name? Because I love that. Betty Davis ain't for sissies. Was that you?
Yeah, well, what happened was, so for 17 years, I was a personal trainer in New York City, and I was with a client, and we were exercising, and we were doing our barbells, and I was about to go to Scotland, and we were thinking, well, there's that famous quote, old age ain't no place for sissies, and then we thought, oh, Betty Davis ain't no place for sissies. So it was about Betty's quote and then putting her into it.
That is fantastic. What a way to tie it all together. You're also performing at this new theater, the Bell Theater at Bellworks in Homedale. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, I'm so excited. So Bellworks is a beautiful space out in New Jersey, and it's a brand new theater, which, in today's world, theaters don't open as much as they used to. And having a space for a community to gather is so special. And Bellworks is beautiful. It is actually they just opened this year. So they're at the very beginning of their history. And they're bringing in new shows like mine to kind of inspire folks in the neighborhood to come see the shows. They're great shows. I'm so blessed to be part of, the touring community where we really are creme de la creme shows. And so they've really made a great effort to bring in some wonderful shows, and I'm excited to be there.
Yes, well, Jessica, let us
Dina,
know how we can find out more information on how to attend one of these shows.
Yeah, well, we can either go into the website. My website is BettyDavis8forsissies.com, or you can go onto Bellworks and go on their website and buy a ticket now. That would be amazing. Go buy your tickets now. Don't delay. Betty would say buy your ticket now.
I love that.
That's great. Thank you so much, Jessica. We wish you all the best. Break a leg, and hopefully we can get tickets ourselves and come by and see the show.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Thanks for joining us here on the New Jersey Morning Show. What a great way, to start off a new season and a new theater there over in Homedale. Very exciting. And I like what she said, especially regarding how we tell you stories out here on the New Jersey Morning Show about so many theaters and so many historical venues that are closing just due to lack of interest, lack of funding, etc. But to have a new, something that begins and kind of starting something new, very exciting.
Yes. I need to know, were you hearing the song Betty Davis Eyes in the background as we were doing this interview? Or was it just me?
Yeah. It's just
I'm
going
just the
on
only
and on
immature one, I guess.
Well, we've got more New Jersey Morning Show as we get that earworm now stuck in our head. Coming up next, we'll be right back. Welcome back to the New Jersey Morning Show. I'm Mike Favetta along with Dina Deleasa-Gonsar. Inroads to Opportunities is the largest job skill training organization in New Jersey, serving over 400 individuals annually with varying disabilities and ranging in age from 16 through retirement.
They have an upcoming casino night and award presentation in celebration of Inroads' milestone anniversary and National Disabilities Employment Awareness Month. Joining us now is Angela Calzone, President and CEO of Inroads to Opportunities. Welcome to the show, Angela.
Welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
Great to have you here. So first, tell us about your organization, Inroads to Opportunities.
Well, we are, as you said, the largest skills training provider for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities in New Jersey. We are very proud of that fact. We serve about 400 individuals each year with varying disabilities in the northern and central New Jersey areas. We're located in Roselle in Union County. We are 65 years old this year, and we are looking forward to our next 65 years. We have a variety of programs and services here that we offer as options with various funding sources, and we just serve such an extraordinary group of people, and we invite everybody who's in our area to come for a tour anytime.
Angela, what kinds of job skills are taught in your program?
Well, it all begins with what the employment goal or vocational goal of the individual is. Everything is very highly customized. So we could have an individual who is just coming out of high school, who is interested in, let's say, the food service industry. So we would take them through our ServSafe food handlers certification training program. Or if they're interested in, just kind of getting a taste of what that industry is like, maybe they've got it in their mind that this is something that they're interested in, but they don't know enough about it. We actually take them on to job sites, and they can experience firsthand watching professionals in that industry work, talking to individuals who are on the job, and then we even have opportunities for them to sample some of those job tasks to see if it's actually right for them. So you have a gamut of opportunity and options for individuals if they already have experience and they need some refresher trainings. We have that available as well. It really runs the gamut based on the individual's goals for their vocation and employment.
So, Angela, we kind of wanted you to, give some guidance and really set the record straight for those that don't understand. What are some common misconceptions surrounding employment of individuals with disabilities?
Well, I think the largest misconception is that it is going to be a burden on the employer, that accommodations may have to be extraordinary or expensive, or there's going to be a significant investment in time for other employees or for the business owner to really, get that person up to job level. And that is a gross misconception. At Inroads, we do have a whole staff of professionals who will not only work with employers in overcoming those objectives, but once they hire an individual, again, based on their employment goals and based on the needs of the employer, we have staff that'll actually work on site with those individuals who've secured that position to make sure that they're functioning at job level, that they understand the nuances of working in a company, especially if this is their first job. So if they have to navigate things like punching in and punching out, or how to speak to their supervisor if they have a challenge or a training need. We have job coaches that work with our individuals on the job so that we share the responsibility of that with the employer.
It seems that you have thought of all aspects of need at this level, and this is definitely something that is important, but yet a unique calling. What is your background and how did you get involved?
Oh, gosh. My background is actually on the for-profit side. I have been not only a serial entrepreneur, but I've worked in middle market professional services firms selling intangibles, various services and consulting. Um, and I got involved about 10 years ago with Inroads as I had opened a management consulting practice, and they were among my clients. I fell in love at first sight with not only the individuals that Inroads served, but the staff, who are extremely loyal and very committed to the mission and the vision of the agency. And when the opportunity arose that I could be a part of this fantastic team and this wonderful environment, I absolutely jumped on it.
Wow, that's very, very very exciting. Though, tell us about Casino Night, the celebration of Inroad's milestone anniversary, and October is actually National Disability Employment Awareness Month.
Yes, yes. This is a very busy time of year for us. So on September 27th, from 7 to 11 p.m., that's a Friday, we are going to be celebrating at the Galloping Hill Golf Course Grand Ballroom in Kenilworth, New Jersey, our casino night and annual awards ceremony. And that is when we not only have this largest fundraiser of the year for us, but also when we celebrate a number of our community partners who have gone above and beyond to really be out there for Inroads or for our greater population of individuals with disabilities. Folks like Gina Iosum, the assistant prosecutor of Union County, she'll be celebrated as an award recipient. Folks like this who are out in the community really making change in whether it's policy, perception, or just trying to pave a path for individuals with disabilities in all aspects of their lives. So we celebrate those award recipients. We have this amazing fundraiser every year. And to add, even more happiness to this event is we are also celebrating the 65th anniversary at this function. So we have Union County Commissioner Sergio Granados is going to be there to issue a proclamation for our 65th. So it's going to be, we have family and friends and sponsors that come. It's a beautiful event to come out to. So I invite anyone listening or watching to get in contact with us. And if you're in the area and you come to the event, please do.
Angela, it sounds like a beautiful event, and congratulations on so many years of service. Can you let our viewers know where they can find this event, how they can attend?
Absolutely. And everything and anything is on our website. So we are inroads2.org. And there is information listed not only about all of our services and supports that we provide, but if you go up to the donate button, you'll be able to click there and provide any contributions if you're interested. And there's also an events page as well on our site, and it gives you the detail about casino night.
All right, Angela Calzone, President and CEO of Inroads to Opportunities. Thank you so much for joining us on the New Jersey Morning Show.
Thank you for having me. It's been a blessing to be with you guys this morning.
Thanks, and great luck on the fundraiser. What a really, really awesome idea to bring all of those things together, right here in New Jersey. Very exciting, especially with that organization being around for 65 years. That's quite some time.
I know. 65 years is quite the milestone, but what wonderful work they're doing in giving the opportunity not only to be placed within jobs, but all the advocacy and all the learning and the teaching, not only just with the employers, but on the other side too, with the attendees to their organization. So, I get really excited when I see that, because that's, it's not an easy space to be in by any means, but nevertheless an important one. Well, the New Jersey Morning Show continues with more New Jersey news, talk, and weather after this.